Welcome back to the Travsessed podcast. We're your hosts, Kim and Aaron. We are healthcare travelers and the creators of Travsessed. Travsessed provides on-the-clock, off-the-clock resources for healthcare travelers. On the clock being this podcast and our course Traveler School. Off the clock being Travsessed Adventures, where we travel around the globe with like-minded healthcare professionals doing epic adventures. You can learn about all of that at our website, imtravsessed.com. And let's get into this week's show. Okay, so this week's show, podcast, episode is a little different.
Yeah, we went live in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group called Travsessed. It's for healthcare travelers specifically. And we went live on Sunday and we just answered all of the questions that we get about our group trips. So we basically just answered all of the questions that we get about our group trips. And so we just get into it. We talk about what's included on these trips, how the trips are designed, the vibe of the trip, who the trip is for, who comes on our trips.
How Travsessed Adventures was created.
Yeah, like where did this even come from? Because I think we did our first trip last year, which is still crazy because I always think of it as being a couple years, but really our first official was last year. And so people are like, oh, like you guys host trips, like what? How does that work? Or how, like, what's the process for that? How do you plan that? When are you launching these trips? What trips are you doing? And like, so we just kind of get into all of that so that you can kind of figure out if these know behind the scenes of kind of how this all started, and also if our trips are for you or not. And so we just took the audio from that, and that will be this episode. And I think there's just a lot of good info in this if you are interested in figuring out if these, like, what's the overall vibe and how these trips work and who comes to see if this is something you would ever be interested in joining, basically.
Yeah, it's funny. We got off that training and Kim and I were nervous because we hadn't done a Facebook Live in a very long time.
Yeah.
So
it's been like a hot minute.
It was a while, and I just felt when I got off that, it was kind of like how I felt with Traveler School. Like, we could never reproduce that. Like, I just felt like it was good. It just, all the questions were answered. It was answered in a fun way. It's a fun topic for us to talk about, and it just went really well. And I think we had an issue with Facebook, and so the comments weren't coming over. So therefore, we weren't like interrupting and like reading a bunch of comments and things like that, which I think helped with the flow of it.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, it just felt good. It was like, this would be good to put on the podcast.
Yeah. It's funny how, just like side tangent, you know, we used to go live all the time. Like there was a period that we would go live every single week. And like we were always...
We did that for 6 months.
It's like crazy to think about. And when we first started going live, of course you're nervous, like anything. Like you're live, you know, there's no redos when you're live, right? People are watching and you can't take things back, or you can't say things, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, you know, like it's all live. But we kept showing up every single week and we got more comfortable, and it just kind of became second nature. And then now it's like we don't do them very often. And so going live, like, I don't know why I was so nervous. I'm like, don't mess it up. And it's like, what are you even messing up? Like, you're just getting on and like answering questions. But I don't know, I just felt like kind of open and vulnerable and like nervous. But then, like you said, once we got into it, I was like, oh yeah, like this is fun. I like this. Like very comfortable, just kind of flowing and doing our thing. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've gotten so used to the podcast where, I mean, I rarely make any cuts to the podcast.
Yeah.
We just let it run. But, you know, there are times where, you know, Kim's gotten up and got herself a drink of water in the middle of the...
Aaron bit my head off.
In the middle of the podcast. So, of course, we cut that out as you're hearing, like, rushing water and banging on the microphone.
And Aaron yelling at me.
Yeah.
We should leave that in behind the scenes.
And we'll leave in all of your, like, don't say that. Yeah, that's not what I wanted to say.
Whatever. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, well, if you're coming at me.
Take that back.
You haven't done that in a long time.
I really don't do that anymore.
No.
I don't. That doesn't sound convincing that you even believe that.
Is you were throwing it out there to the peoples about me yelling at you for that, when there are a lot of times that it's not just me yelling at you on the podcast. That's all.
I don't yell.
I know.
Sometimes I redirect.
We've gotten into some heated arguments on the podcast. And then it's funny because there's those commercials that I think they're Geico or some commercial where they're doing like a lover's quarrel or a friend's quarrel. And they're like, do I need to show you the replay? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So they throw the red flag and somebody comes up and shows them actually what happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, man.
Shit, dude.
Yeah, so it's like.
Yeah. I would say it's been a while, but especially in the beginning, dude, like if we would have left some of that footage in where we would just like go ham on each other, and then Aaron would go back and like edit the podcast, but all of that was still recorded.
I'd be listening to
and
it.
He's like, dude, I was such an asshole. I'm so sorry. I'm just kidding.
I would say that.
That's what I was waiting for you.
I was like actually happy with the apology. I'm like, wow, thanks. That's nice.
Oh, you thought I was I got you. It was. Anyway, okay.
This is a long training, so we will jump off.
Last thing I'll say is if you are interested in joining one of our trips, future trips, make sure to join the interest list on our website, Travsessed.com, under the adventure tab. Because that is where we share all the details about the trip. So the itinerary, the price, what's included, the dates, and that's where people get access to sign up as well. So if you're interested in any trip at any time, you definitely want to be on that list. And we've said this for like a year, but we're getting ready to launch Patagonia. We are just waiting for these dates to lock in before we can actually officially launch it. So if you're interested in that trip, make sure you are on that list.
All right, let's enjoy the training.
Get into the live.
Welcome, Kim and Aaron, to the show. Please prepare for departure. What's up? What's up?
Wow!
Happy Sunday.
Spill the coffee.
Kim dropping everything.
Getting off to a interesting start. Mm-hmm. Well, it's our first time going live in a really long time.
Yeah. It's been a little
rusty.
Yeah, for real.
Don't know how to act. We'll give a few minutes for people to come on.
Kim Lawrence and Gibson is live.
Oh.
Wow. We should watch.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Someone's here.
Maybe it's me.
Well, I also know that a lot of you guys are going to be watching the replay, and so we're going to try to keep this as short as possible, and so that you can go back and watch this, and we're basically just going to answer all of the questions that we get about our group trips and kind of what are those, who are they for, like people like, you guys like plan trips, like I don't even get that, like What do you mean? And so we thought we would just answer some of the most common questions, that it's a video that people can go to and get the deets and decide if the trips are for them or not.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, we'll wait just a little bit longer, about 2 more minutes longer, and then we'll get going. But we are in West Virginia, which was a crazy roller coaster ride after coming home from our first Bali trip. Decided to take a contract because this is the first time in the year that Kim and I have had 3 months of a time frame, which we don't even really have before our next Bali trip. But we decided we had the best contract pop up, so we decided to take it. Got us out of Florida and got us here in the mountains of West Virginia. I'm starting my second week tomorrow. So just that whole transition kind of happened bang bang, like right after being gone 7 weeks in Bali.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but I'm excited to be here. It's been awesome so far.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Like we're here for fall. The weather is like cooler, and it's a 10-week contract, so it's like perfect.
Yeah.
10 weeks, and then we're back to Bali to run 2 more trips.
Yep.
So.
And then back to West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go over like what we're gonna actually answer, because this is specific to the group trips. Where am I supposed to look up here?
You can look where you want, buddy.
But then I feel like I'm not looking at
here.
Okay, that doesn't feel natural.
Okay.
Like for people who are interested in the trips or just want to know more about them. And so we're gonna cover who the trips are for, who they're not for, because they're definitely not for everyone. what's included in the trips, like the process, like how it all works. And traveling solo, like that's a really big question we get all the time. And if you've never been on a group trip, kind of like what to expect. And
if you've never been out of the country.
Yeah. And just kind of the overall vibe of our trips and what you could expect if you came on a trip with us. So that's what we're going to get into.
And I definitely want to clarify, when we're talking about group trips, these are the Travsessed trips that we plan, the adventure trips that we plan. They have nothing to do with healthcare working. They are literally fun adventure trips that we do with other healthcare travelers from this community. And we do a lot of them.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. So I think just like first, like if you're new here and you're like, I didn't even know you guys like plan trips, like what's the vibe?
And who are you?
Yeah. We're Kim and Aaron, and we're like the creators of this Facebook group, and we've been travelers for the past 11 years, which is crazy. I'm a stenographer and Aaron does IR. And
thank you for just doing that and not making
I
me
know,
say
because
it.
it's like so awkward.
It's like QU. I do IR.
I know. I'm like, okay, like it's too much. So, and we've been traveling for 11 years, and so we would take a lot of time off to travel in between contracts, because like that's one of the cool things is being a traveler. Like you have the flexibility. You can work 3 to 6 months, and you could take 3 months off or a month off and travel,
or 6 or 9
or a year, like whatever. And so we would do that a lot, and we would go and we'd plan this like really cool trip, and just
together, like, with the two of us, not as a group.
Yeah, just the two of us. And like people would like reach out and be like, I want to be able to take time off like in between a contract and do a trip like you guys are doing, or like, could you help me plan it, or would you be open to doing a group trip? And we were like, no, like absolutely not.
Totally. And I think too, like a lot of people had reached out also, and you know, on Instagram and the Facebook group just in general, and it said, my issue is I have all this time off as a traveler, but I don't know where to go or what to do, and I don't even know how to begin that process. And you guys are always going to such cool places, like how do you guys find this stuff? Like how do you do it? And so that kind of started the conversation, and then it was like, well, can you plan my trip for me? And then what about doing a group trip? And we were like, hells no.
Well, because we were like, we like traveling
alone,
solo, and like doing our own thing. I'm like, I'm never doing a group trip. Like, I'm not getting on a bus with 50 other people, like going to all the touristy sites. Like, that is not the vibe. So we're like, hell no, like that is not going to happen. But like, cool, you know? And then as more time went by, we started to think more about it, and we're like, okay, like,
what if we did it our way?
Yeah, like obviously we're not, but like what if we did it in a way of like focusing on the things that we love and have it be, you know, like physical and food focused and
culture.
Yeah, like let's put something out there and really see if people would be interested in doing a group trip with other healthcare travelers. Like let's just give it a go. And so that's how our Peru trip, which was like our original, like I guess inaugural Travsessed trip that we did back in 2021.
2020, but
got canceled because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we actually did it in 2021. Was it 2020?
Last year.
Wow. That's okay. And so we just put it out there. We planned the whole trip. We were hiking the Inca Trail, and we had all this like cool stuff. And we're like, we'll put it out there and see if anybody really wants to come. And long story short, that trip sold out like instantly. And we're like, okay, I guess people like really do want to come, like so we ended up having to do 2 trips back to back. Those were our biggest groups. It was like 16 people.
It was massive.
We don't do that anymore. Our max is like 10 to 12. But we went, we're like, okay, well, like the people signed up, so let's go give it a go. We still weren't sure how we felt about like a group trip. And then we went and ended up being like, this was so amazing to share these experiences with other people. And it was one of our favorite trips. And we were like, this is kind of cool.
Well, not only that, the byproduct of that was how close we got with this community. And Kim and I have been traveling alone for so many years that even when we went to new countries, I would want to put myself in, you know, hotspot bar areas or maybe like in the cafes and try to meet people. Cause I'm like, dude, I really want to start building a community around this because it's so much more fun to share. And every time we did like excursions and it would be a small group, we would get so close with that group, just strangers. And we still talk to some of the people we went on Thailand adventure with, and the Philippines and in Bali. We still talk to those people. Greece, we still talk to them. And that was all the way back in 2017.
Well, and Tanzania. And so like what we realized too, because we always said like we're not group travel people. And then when we looked back on all the travels we've done and all the trips, like the highlights of the things that stood out, like the memories were always with the people. It was always like, remember that time we did this? And it was always based around the people that we were with. And then Peru was such an incredible experience that if Aaron and I would have went on our own, it would have been amazing. But it was like the people that we were with really like brought it home, where we felt so connected and just had this like just fun next level experience. So then we were like, okay, I think we're on to something. This was awesome. And that's where Travsessed Adventures was really born from the end of that trip.
Well, and what was cool and foreshadowing a bit, but like everybody that came on those first two Travsessed Adventures, almost everybody, I would say 80% have already come on a second trip with us.
Oh yeah,
which is
some of them
amazing.
Have come on every single
all
one.
three.
Yeah. So yeah, right, which is awesome. So after that Peru trip, we're like, okay, cool. Like this is something like we want to explore more, because I think we're creating a really cool experience for, you know, the community that's making an impact, that's connecting other travelers, that's creating experiences and allowing people to get out of their comfort zone and go have an international adventure. A lot of people who come on our trips is the first time even leaving the country because they were too scared to do it alone. And so they feel like our trips are kind of this safe haven that they feel like, okay, this is big. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going somewhere I've never been, but I know I'm going to be greeted with, you know, a like-minded group of people and everything's taken care of, right?
Totally. And I think too, like TravCon was a big inspiration because you could go solo, and we met so many people that would go to TravCon, the biggest travel conference in Vegas every year. They would go to TravCon by themselves and meet so many people, and it would be this family kind of dynamic when they left. And so having it be that the people that we talk to are healthcare travelers, the healthcare community, you have that thing in common. So even though you're going solo, you know, you have that thing that helps you make that push to get out. And we'll talk more about that. But the only thing I wanted to add about Travsessed Adventures and how it like worked out was I and everybody that goes on this trip is so lucky that Kim loves this stuff. She could sit for days and months and years just researching, and she has a knack for it that I couldn't do. I don't know how to type into Google the correct things to not find just like the top 10 list, right? She has this way of getting in, and it does in these places.
Well, and the guides and the people we meet and getting like inside information and like being able to like really plan unique experiences.
Totally. And
that's what I always did for us. And that's translated into like now how we plan a group trip, because I do love it so much.
So with her love for that, my love for relationships, community, and also the organization of like how this works financially and how we pay these people, and having spreadsheets. I get to build so many spreadsheets, which is like so much fun to me. It just kind of works. And so that's how we got so excited about all of this. And after that first Peru trip, realized, man, this is something that we would like to continue and keep researching new locations and bring that to the travel community.
Yeah. So now at this point, we've done 4 Peru trips, 4 Bali trips, which is like crazy, 2 Patagonia trips. We're getting ready to launch another Patagonia for this April. We're just waiting on the dates for that, and then we'll be launching that. And then we're also adding Oaxaca, Mexico, which was like one of our favorite places we've been, and New Zealand, which we love. We've been all the places that all the trips that we plan are places like we've been and fell in love with and have created the trips based off of that. And so that's the plan for 2024. So kind of crazy to think of like that one Peru trip, and now it's like all these other trips.
And then we are planning our own research trip to Costa Rica to go and do the things that we would want to do and see how that works for a group trip. And we will be launching that in 2025.
So, and we're going to get into this too, like answering the questions, but basically like how the trips themselves work is we plan and organize everything. So all of the details, everything is like the trip is planned. And then once that trip is fully planned, so like as an example, right now we're still in the planning period of Patagonia because the itinerary is done, like all the big stuff is done, but we have to make sure that we can lock in these dates in the refugios that we're going to. And until that is 100%, the trip isn't ready to be launched, right? And so how we do it is like we plan and organize everything. And then when the trip is absolutely ready, we launch the trip, which basically means that we share all of the details about the trip. So the itinerary, the dates, the price, like everything that you would need to know, what to expect, what is required of this trip. So everything that you would need to know to decide if this trip is for you or not. We launch that usually with like a fun video. We do like a launch party. We create a guide so you can read over it. And then once it's launched, which we share all of these details to everybody who's on our trip interest list, that's like who we launch to first. And they get first dibs to sign up and all the details. And so we launch to the trip interest list. And then once you go over everything, the trip is open for people to sign up. So that's like how it works. And we typically want to be able to launch a trip 4 to 5 months in advance. So if we're launching Patagonia, hopefully within like the next week or so, the trip is in April. So launching it in November, trip will go in April. So it gives you plenty of time to plan and prepare, pay for it, all of the things. And that's kind of how it works. Cool. And the last thing I just want to say there, that if you are not on the trip interest list and you want the details about all of our upcoming trips and like just, future updates on everything, you can join the trip interest list by going to our website. I'll also put a link later, but it's Travsessed.com. It's under the adventure tab, and you can just put your name and your email, and like that will put you onto the list, and you'll receive emails with all of the specific trip information.
Yeah, and our trips typically, for all the trips that we've done, they sell out very quickly. Usually from that launch video, we do the launch video. The minute the launch video is over, the cart opens. And people, as they sign up, they get a spot. As long as their down payment is paid, that locks in their spot. Mm-hmm. That being said, after doing this and saying that it's 4 to 5 months, people drop out, a couple people here and there. So there could be like a wait list, and the next person that is excited can be on that wait list. But, typically if you're not on that adventure list or don't join that live, list, those trips usually will be sold out by the time you come back around to reaching out.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely get on that interest list if you have any interest in any of the trips. Mm-hmm. Okay, so getting into just kind of like our trips are like unique and they're specific and they're not going to be for every traveler. And so we really focus our trips around how we ourselves like to travel. And so that's heavily focused on food and outdoor adventures and hiking and physical activity and culture and really like immersing ourselves in the area that we are. So learning about the people, learning about the way of living, like taking in as much as we can in the area that we're in is something that is so important to us and is infused into every single one of our trips. Like those are the kinds of trips we're going to plan. Not resort style, like not like foofing around at all the touristy sites. Like we are going to get down and dirty. And also food is such a important part for us. So like we love a mix of both like really nice, not fancy, but kind of like foodie experiences. Mm-hmm. And also like street food and that kind of stuff. So it's always going to be a good mix of that too.
We love like finding a chef that specializes in their own little way, but also infuses the local ingredients of that location we are in and creates an experience around it. And that's always so much fun to go and have wine or cocktails and have an amazing dinner and be able to sit around the table because, anywhere you go, a lot of history, a lot of culture, a lot of community is built around the food of that country. And so if you don't really step out there and experience that, we feel personally, and again, these are around our thought process of how we travel, you miss out on so much. And so that's always included, but also getting down and dirty and jumping into a street market and, and finding the foods on the street that are really famous and fun to eat and unique to that area. So it's always a mix of both, and even the culture and the off the beaten path. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Finish your sentence, but then I want to say something.
Good.
Also, like when it comes to like foodie and stuff, like we like to have drinks and have fun, and there's meals included with alcohol and like wherever, like if it's Chile, it's like lots of Chilean wine. If it's Oaxaca, it's going to be mezcal. Like those things are always a part of our experience. Like that is like what we like, but we're not like a party trip. Like it's not.
We're going to get into that.
I know. I just wanted to say that too, of just kind of the overall style and vibe. Is like we have fun and like we like to include all of that into our experiences, but it's not going to be like get down at the club kind of a style.
Yep.
So
totally.
Do you want to talk about the physical aspect?
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about the next category, and then that kind of comes.
Well, I think just a lot, because I want to say it up front here.
Okay.
Is like.
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Okay.
So basically just understanding that every one of the Travsessed trips are physical. There is a physical component. We do not feel that if you're just riding in a bus the whole time, or being chauffeured around, you can really experience what that country or that unique place has to offer. And so we are always going to be walking, hiking. If we're going to waterfalls, we're walking up a bunch of steps. I mean, if you go whitewater rafting, you're walking down steps. If you're in Peru, obviously you're hiking. The Inca Trail, that's a 4-day Inca Trail hike that you're sleeping in tents and you're going in the altitude, and it's tough. Patagonia, same way. We're hiking 46 miles on the W Trek. We're not taking cars on the actual W Trek. We're walking. Our 2 legs are taking us that distance. If there's a chance to walk to dinner, we're all going to walk to dinner. We're not going to hire a car to go. Yeah. Like that is just kind of one of our things that we enjoy, because that also allows you to get on the ground and walk and discover things and have conversations. And we love that aspect of our trips.
Yeah. So whether a lot of our trips are like hiking focused, but even if they're not, like a Bali or a Costa Rica or New Zealand, like it's still, all of our trips are going to have a physical component to them always. It's just kind of the trips that we like to do and plan. And so if you're not into that like at all, then our trips aren't for you.
It won't be like a cruise. It won't be like a lay at the beach all day, party all night kind of trip. There's tons of people that plan trips just like that. Mm-hmm. And so there's plenty of people to choose from. These aren't those trips.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And then I guess just kind of like our, like like why would you even want to come on a trip like with us, right? And I think it just goes back to, this is like such a passion of ours and something that we love to do and that we've done for 11 plus years ourselves. And all of our itineraries, all of the thought and heart and love and effort into every detail and every trip, like it's not something that we just throw together. It's not a kind of trip that you're going to find on like a Groupon. It's really unique experiences that, yes, there's touristy things that we do, because some things are touristy for a reason that we want to see, but like that's not the focus of like our top 10 things to do list. Like our trips are really infused with a lot of experiences that you really won't find anywhere else. Mm-hmm. That make them like one of a kind and unique.
Totally. And we like to go on to other, trip sites and kind of see what they're planning of the locations. And honestly, every time Kim and I go on there, I mean, those trips are great, right? But we just realize that's not our style. Like we've been to a lot of the places that these trips are focusing on, and you're literally like standing in long lines with tourists and you're pushing out of the way to get the picture. And then you're basically just snapping the picture, but not learning anything about the area. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, I got the picture, but did you really experience it? And that's kind of like the opposite of what Kim and I want with these trips. Is we want people to experience it. And yes, if they get the picture, great, but they had the experience, and that stays with you longer with the people that you're around and what you are experiencing than just that, Instagrammable picture.
Yeah, 100%. And, we work with local businesses, local guides, like people that we've met on our own trips, to really help plan like getting inside scoop from the locals of like things to do and like things to experience that you might not find on the Googles. And then also being able to know that our trips, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but that when you show up, it's going to be with a small group of other like-minded travelers. Like our groups are primarily healthcare travelers. And so you can know that I might not know everybody, but that you're going to be with people that you already have something in common with.
Yeah, and I will say something that I'm the most proud of is kind of what Kim touched on about working with local businesses and local people. We take pride in trying to really find not only those hotels that are run by local people, have been opened by local people, but that they are doing the right thing with their money and giving back to the community. They're hiring local people and giving them opportunities to grow within the organization. Even when it comes down to the food tours we do or the hikes we do, we make sure that they are socially conscious and really doing good things in the place that we are, so we know that our money is going to a good place. And obviously you can only do so much research, and we try to talk and get down and dirty as much as we can to really understand these businesses before we provide them the money from this group, and also the relationship that will be coming back. And we do our best with that, and that's something that I've been really proud of because it's worked out so far with everywhere we've gone, and we've been really excited about working with these vendors and these people on the ground.
Yeah, totally. Okay, next is no, there's no planning required. I think that's like another thing of just like, okay, well, what do I have to do and blah, blah, blah. It's like the point of these trips are for people who don't want to plan anything. They don't want to plan. They don't want to organize. They don't want to think. They don't want to research. That's like my favorite thing to do. So there's no planning required for these trips. It's literally like you get yourself to wherever the trip is, and then we have everything taken care of. So we have the itinerary, we are your hosts, we're working with the guides and like the local people on the ground to organize logistically, like where are we going, what are we doing, what time are we being picked up, we're going to dinner here, like we have the money for this here, like it's literally, and we'll get more into like the money aspect of it, but it's basically like you just sign up, get yourself to where you're going, and we've got the rest covered. And the trips are designed for people that find ease with that and like want to travel like that.
Well, and I will say there is some intimidating factors for a lot of people that have never traveled of like, which airport do I fly into? Am I going to be picked up? Do I need to find a ride? Where am I going? We have all of that covered as well. And I'll say, when I say we have it covered, a lot of times like the getting there, if you get there early, then it's like finding your own hotel before the trip starts, because we basically have a trip start date and a trip end date, and then after that it's up to you what you want to do. But we provide email support. We also create a WhatsApp group. We create a Facebook group for each trip, so you are constantly guided along the way with any questions that you might have, and we make sure that we get back ASAP, so that way you understand the right airport to fly into there, because that added stress to me as a solo traveler when Kim and I were just traveling is how do we find a ride from the airport? Do we need cash? Like, do I have to find a taxi? Can we find, mass transportation? So we want to take care of all of that for you and make sure that you literally have nothing to think about except enjoying yourself and being excited.
Yeah, 100%. We're like the support team.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So what's included? So this is like a big one of like how this works, what's included. And so for us, what we like to do is when we're building a pay package, we try to include as much as possible. So meaning the tips, like the tips for our guides. Like we always have guides. We always have local people on the ground that are helping us once we get there. So like we're tipping our guides, we're going to restaurants, we're doing adventures, activities. Like there's tips for all of those people. And so we want to include all the tips. We want to include all the meals. We want to include drinks. Like our goal is like we want to include as much as possible. As much as we can. Obviously there's like some free days and just some different things that are at your own expense of like whatever you choose to do. But we try to include as much as possible so that it's just, again, it's easy. It's like once you got there, you're like, I'm here. I don't need to be like, I need to go get cash so that I can like get, how much should I tip the guide and like what?
Yeah, I have a story on that.
Yeah, so it's just like we try to make it as easy as possible. And the only thing I'll say, and then I'll let you tell your story, but we do it this way because we were experimenting with just like, because that makes the pay package higher at the top. And so we experimented with like, well, maybe we should like not include as much. And then it brings the price down. But then when people get there, they have to pay more. And so we realized like a lot of group trips, like it's like a certain price, but then when you dig into it, it only includes like 3 dinners and no alcohol.
For like a 7-day trip.
And this activity isn't included, and this one lunch is. And
tips aren't included.
Tips aren't included. So to me, it just felt like as a traveler and as a consumer, and just from feedback from our own trips that we've run, is that it's nice just to pay more at the top. It's all covered so that you're not thinking about that while you're actually on the ground. Everything is already included for you. And to me, I think like that's the best way to do it.
Also, airport transfer from when you arrive, like for instance, it differs, right? But we clarify that in the pay package. In Patagonia, your airport transfer to and from the hotel back to the airport. So airport to hotel, hotel to airport is included. Same with like Oaxaca, we figured that out. Bali's a little different because people like to stay later, so your transport.
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah,
but I'm saying like all of those things are included, and we break all that down and let you know before, like during the launch. I will say one of the stories that popped up, and the reason why we do this is I can literally barely count on my hands and toes. Like there's more. I'm gonna need other feet and toes to the experience of getting to a food tour, and I felt like I missed out on the experience because I was so concerned about, do I need cash? How much am I going to tip this guide? Where do I get cash? Is there going to be an ATM along the way? We have to wake up early and run and find an ATM, and a lot of times we didn't because couldn't find one that worked for us. And so the entire food tour, I'm like concerned and on the lookout for an ATM and breaking away. And I remember one food tour, I literally ran a half a mile to an ATM during the food tour to go get enough cash so that I could tip this guide. Mm-hmm. And I felt after that like I missed out on the experience because I was constantly worrying about where the cash was and how much to tip, that like I wasn't present. And when we started planning these trips, I told Kim, I was like, this is something that I want to include in the pay package so that our travelers never have to worry about this. They don't have to worry how much cash they have on hand. The cash that they have on hand is how much that they want to spend on themselves. Everything else is taken care of so that they can be present with the group, with the guide, with the experience we're doing, and just have the most fun possible and take in the most. And that comes with restaurants and how much am I paying and how much is this and is this a la carte, is this not? Like that worry just, I feel, takes away from the travel experience. And so if we can take that on, that's what we provide in our trips. And
each trip will be different, and when you receive the details and the itinerary, like once it's launched, it will go over exactly like what's included and what's not. So it's very about that. Okay, do you offer payment plans? Very simple. Yes, we do. The deposit is, like we already talked about this, but that saves your spot and gets you into the trip. And then usually it's about a 4 to 5 month payment plan. That's what we're moving into next year, is like having it be 5 to 6 months, meaning that we'll launch the trip and then you'll have 5 or 6 months to pay for the trip. That seems to be like a sweet spot of time, because it was like 3 to 4 months.
It's too rushed.
Which worked fine, but I think the nature of us taking contracts and trying to plan out our year and just all of that, it was a lot. So I think we are gonna shoot for 5 to 6.
5 to 6. Yep.
Who are Travsessed trips for?
Ooh, fun.
Okay, so again, this is I feel like we've kind of like hit on this.
Can't hit it on enough.
Yeah, but like in general, like it's for active adventurers, like people who want to get off the beaten path, get out of their comfort zone. They have a positive attitude. They want to push themselves physically. They want to try new things. Like they have a good attitude of just like, I'm here, I'm excited. There might be some things that are a little out of my comfort zone or some things like I'm not sure about, but I'm excited to try and I'm excited to put myself out there and push myself, and I'm down for anything and like, let's go. Like that is the essence of the people who come on these trips.
Yeah, and positive attitude. I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Like understanding that we travel in small groups, so your energy is felt. and that energy can leak out into the group. And so it's these people that see excitement first, whether it be a nasty rainy day or 400 stairs that we have to climb to reach this adventure. It's people that look forward to that and bring a positive energy to the group and an excitement to the group to go and experience this together. And so those are the people that we are looking forward to come on these trips. And if you have all of those things, these trips are next level epic.
100%. Do you have to be an athlete? Like, as you said, like our trips are physical, right? Like there's always going to be physical components to them. But no, you do not have to be like an athlete. I don't want to like scare people into thinking like this is like extreme sports. Like it's not, but it's just you do have to be active. You do have to be willing to walk. You do, and each trip will be different, right? Like the activity level of someone who's going to come on the Peru trip is going to be different than the Bali trip, right? So they're going to be
same
different
with Oaxaca.
trips. Yeah, same with Oaxaca. Oaxaca is not a super physical trip, right? So it's going to be different based on the trips, but it's that overall, like we already said, it's the attitude that's really important, the willingness to push yourself, and yeah, but you do not have to be like an athlete or in like super ripped,
no, you
super
don't
great
have to be
shape
like
at all.
number one
I'm
or number
not,
two of the CrossFit games.
Yeah.
So
just putting that out there. Okay, who comes on our trips?
So most people that come on our trips work in healthcare, and they usually range between the ages of like 28 and 45. With that being said, we have had some badass upper 50s, upper 60s that have crushed some of the most difficult trips that we do, Peru and Patagonia, and did it with a smile and rocked it and was running past the 28-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
So again, there's not like a set age range. It's just about all of those things that we talked about in the above paragraph of the attitude and the willingness to get off the beaten path and also have some activity level.
100%. But I would say the average is the 28 to 45. But then what?
No, you're good. Keep going. I just wanted to say this because I think this is a plea for myself.
And then 95% of our groups are women. Yeah. We need more.
I just said, I was like, I want to say this. It's a plea to myself, and then you just went ahead.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that after.
No.
You want
so
more women.
95% of the people that come on our trips are women, which is great because I get along with women just as well as I do with men. It's just, I was raised by women. It's my thing. It doesn't matter to me. But I am pleading. Guys, where are you at? Like, let's go, man. I need some dudes on the trip. Like, for instance, the Bali trip, the second Bali trip, I am the only dude.
No, you're not.
No, that's right. We have one guy in each group.
Yeah.
So me and another guy. So at least I have, like, my guy there. So, yes, it's mainly women, and we're trying to build up that male presence in the group.
Yeah, 100. So, ladies, bring your friends, bring your brothers.
Yeah.
Calling all men to Travsessed adventures, please. We need more balance, which love the ladies, but just kind of knowing that like it's mostly women, and there's always like a few men, and then it's mostly solo travelers. I think, and this is like a big thing because like we do have couples who come, which we love, and we have family members that come. Like people bring their sisters or their brothers or their husbands, or I guess that's a couple, but majority are solo travelers. So like lots of female solo travelers, and the men that have come on the trip have been solo travelers unless they were someone's like husband or partner. And so I think just kind of knowing that if you are thinking about coming on a trip and you're solo and you're like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of like, I know like weird to be like, I'm just going to show up and I don't know anyone, and that's kind of weird. Most people in our groups feel that exact same way, and they're in the same boat, and then everyone gets so close and becomes friends so quickly because of the nature of our trips that like being solo isn't even a thing anymore. No,
and I think too that's a big misconception and assumption that people have, that you and Kim are a married couple who are healthcare travelers, all your trips are couples. And I've heard that before, and I'm like, actually 87 to 90% of the people that come on our trips are solo travelers.
Yeah.
We usually have a couple, like one couple per trip, if that.
And I think too, like, just hitting on that, because this was like one of the questions we're already talking about it, but there are so many friendships that are created on these trips from solo travelers coming up that are still friends, still talk, doing other like adventures together, and meeting up on other Travsessed trips together, and like going off together and like continuing on traveling together. Like, so many friendships are created on these trips that like is so awesome, just because the nature of us always being together, like we'll get really close really fast, and you're meeting like-minded people, but like you really are like creating like friendships that will continue on.
That's been my favorite part, is when we get the picture of 3 solo travelers that came, made a friendship, and now they're in Colorado or Oregon or Washington hiking together, and they snap a selfie or having dinner together. We've had 2 people almost all the way across the country who live on 2 different ends of the country drive across and meet up because they were in the area. I mean, it's just like really cool to see. And it goes to show you that if you come solo, you leave usually with a best buddy.
Yeah, so
or 2 or 3.
All that to say, don't let that be something that makes you feel nervous, because almost everyone's in the exact same boat. So you are in good company. And a lot of people on our trips too, like we said, it's their first time traveling internationally. And not only are they traveling internationally, they're traveling alone, and I just think that's so cool to be able to create that safe space for people to come and have this incredible adventure together, knowing that there's fears there, like they feel like nervous, but like know like once they get there that they're in good hands, good friends, good company, and they're going to have an awesome freaking trip.
I will say, this is just a side note, I'm noticing that on our analytics here, it says 3 comments, but in our comment section, it says no comments yet. So one reason, if you asked a question and we haven't answered it yet, is because it's actually not popping up. So I don't know why we're not getting that. So that's kind of weird. So just know that if you have written a comment and we haven't answered it, or said hi or whatever it is, now there's 4 comments.
What? Let me log in and see.
So let's figure this out, because if there's questions, I don't want to just bulldoze through.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I would like to answer it. And I was like waiting for them to pop up, thinking it would refresh. But Kim will go on Facebook now.
I have to pee.
Okay. No.
Oh, yeah. That's weird. It's not like showing up. Oh, Paul said the friends people are the best. Hi, friends. Hey. That's so weird that, we can't see any of this. So weird. Okay, well, I'll stay on here if anything pops up.
Okay, cool. So we've already talked about this a lot throughout this, but really specifying this section. Who are the trips not for? Honestly, if you're somebody who wants to party all night, lounge by the pool, wake up at noon, drift off by themselves, these trips aren't for you. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that. There's just a lot of trips that you could go on out there for you. Ours are not those trips. I will say, with that being said, Kim and I like to get down.
Yeah.
I like to have those moments and where I wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh boy, that was fun, but like, wow, that got a little crazy. And we have those usually bookended. Built in to where we have a welcome dinner and it's a lot of fun and we have drinks and we get to know each other. And then after whatever adventure it is on the last night, we always throw an amazing farewell party dinner event that is always a part of our group. And there's also built-in fun times that drinks are flowing throughout the trip. But it is not the focus of our trip. Now, granted, Bali was a lot more drinking than we thought. It was just the way it was. But, Bali's a fun place. It's an island place, and we have, kind of a lot of more, leeway with being able to...
Well, yeah, because we're not waking up and hiking like 12 miles the next day. But, yeah, I think exactly what you said. And it's just... We have a lot of fun in all of our trips, but we are not going to be the trip to join if you want to be at the club all night partying. Like, that's just not our trip, and not the phase of life that we're in and any of that kind of stuff. So that's just not going to be the vibe of any of our trips, even though we have a lot of fun, and anyone who's been on our trips can attest to that. But yeah, so just something to think about. Another thing is like our trips are very go, go, go. So we like to try to get in as much as we possibly can with the time that we have available. So it is, we built in some downtime, and we're even moving forward, we're going to build in an entire rest day on every single one of our trips based off like some feedback and stuff of people, you know, like, because we do a lot. And so we like to give people as much bang for their buck of like, hey, you flew across the world. We're going to do so much that you can experience as much. But there will be, we do also have downtime, but I will say like our trips, again, if you're looking to just lounge around and like sleep in all day and like chill, like at a beach resort, well, actually we do go to beach resorts. But like, that's just not like the nature of our trips. It's very much
experience as much as possible.
Adventures, and yes, go like a full itinerary.
Right. Moving in, you good with that? Did you want to say something else? I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, and I think like just the last thing, and we've kind of already touched on this, but just
go ahead.
The complaining, like if you are somebody who is like negative and complains, like it's just not the vibe. No. We do some hard stuff sometimes, and like obviously it's not rainbows and butterflies and smiles. Like it's not like you have to be like this robot happy person. Like that's not what we're saying, but it's just if you're naturally someone who's just always complaining about this and that and like it's just not the vibe at all.
There are people in this world that you know that if you can find the joy in even like the craziest situations, there are people out there like that, and we like those type of people on the trips. It just works well with a group. It works well with the energy that we like to be around, and it just makes the trip go that much more smoother. I will say we've talked about it over and over again. If you're somebody that doesn't like to be active or walk, if you know, going to the gym is the last thing that you'll ever think about, or also I like to put it this way, this is a really good example, I think, and you can be the judge of that. I think if you're somebody that is going to the grocery store and you circle the parking lot like 60 times to find the number one parking spot closest to the grocery store, no, I do not.
My God.
I park in the first available spot.
Oh my God.
If parking a distance is a lot for you, then these aren't for you.
Yeah, I feel like we've hit this, so like you got to be active, you got to be able to walk. Like that's important. At least be willing to push yourself to do it depending on what the trip is. And then also like, you know, like Salcantay in Peru was like the hardest hike trip that we've run. And it was hard. It was hard for Aaron and I. Like, again, we're not like professional hikers and athletes. Like, we're in it with everybody. We're in it together as a group. And so what like got us up that mountain was, it was hard. It was challenging, but like us pushing each other together, like as a team, and like encouraging each other and comforting each other and inspiring and helping, like, that is what allowed all of us to make it to the summit. And if there would have been people complaining, like, this is hard, I'm cold, but it's like we would never have survived as a group. And so it's, even through the hard times, being able to know that focusing on the good and allowing that to fuel you up and through whatever challenge you're experiencing is way more powerful than bitching and complaining the whole time about it, because nobody wants to hear it, and it's not, you're still going up the mountain. So like, what kind of attitude do you want to have getting up there?
Totally. And I think one of the most moving moments was like there were people struggling, and there were people struggling a little bit harder, and the people that were struggling like ran back and were like taking backpacks for people to try to help out, and like that didn't make it easier for them, but it made it easier for the person that was struggling. And then when that person regained themselves, you know, it was like this trade-off. It was this like family atmosphere of like, this is tough, we're going to do it together. There was a lot of tears at the top, a lot of hugging, and it was a really cool experience that we can experience together as a group. And just getting over any challenge, whether it be cliff jumping off of a high point. It's just people that are willing to experience and be like, dude, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm scared. I'm going to do it anyway. And it's going to be amazing because I have a support system around me.
And I think too, like, we all have different things that are our first time, or that we feel uncomfortable about or nervous about. And like, it's not just about scaling a mountain or hiking a mountain, right? Or like you said,
snorkeling,
cliff jumping, or snorkeling, or riding a bike, or, you know, just showing up in a group setting that you've never left the country and you're nervous to be around people you don't know. Like, there's so many things that we're all coming into this group with nerves. And so what we have found with our trips is that we get close, we support each other, and it's not that you can never like complain, but it's just that the overall energy is a supportive, fun openness, and wanting to encourage each other to get out of our comfort zones and to push ourselves.
And I will say, just wrapping this up, it's never a race, it's never a competition, it's about doing it as a group. So whether you are slow, fast, medium pace, whatever it is, whatever you do, even if it's walking to the waterfall and it's a bunch of steps, if you're slower at doing that, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So we're not saying that you have to be like running past the guide because this is so easy. Like, no, like you hike your own hike, you travel your own trip, right? But it's just about, literally, it breaks down to the mindset and the positive attitude.
100%.
And enjoying where you are no matter where you are.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, these are cool experiences, and we always look back. Like, Salcante was one of the hardest things that we did, and in the moment, I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can do this.
I don't know if I'll do it again.
This is hard.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I'm like, that was such an awesome trip, like such an awesome climb, like all the things. So it's like, I was trying to be present in the moment because I knew I would look back and be like, wow, what a cool thing like that you did, and not look back and be like, you were miserable the whole time, right? Which is hard to do when you're in it, but that mindset's everything.
Totally.
Okay, so are the trips only for healthcare workers? This is...
I was going to talk about.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Super quick though. Like,
no,
we're almost done. Yeah,
we get this a lot. Like, I wanted to bring a friend, but they're not a healthcare worker. I wanted to come, but I'm not a healthcare worker. Usually somebody is connected to somebody in the healthcare world because that is our community. That is people that we talk to. We have had financial advisors come on the trips. We've had engineers. We've had EMTs. We've had all sorts of
helicopter pilots.
It's usually a friend or a sibling of somebody or spouse of somebody in the medical field has come, but we are not just completely restricted to healthcare workers only. If you do have a spouse or you do have a friend or you do have somebody that you want to bring that is not in healthcare, that is perfectly fine as long as they have the positive attitude and want to get out there and experience some off the beaten path fun stuff. Yeah,
90% are healthcare workers, but we are open to anybody coming. And then the last thing is, people, like, if you've never been on a group trip, you really don't know what to expect. And again, like what we said in the beginning, we were like always anti-group trip because of what we thought of a group trip of, like, you know, we would be in Rome and there would be like this huge, you know, bus pull up with like 100 tourists, like all like getting off and like shuffling in, and you know, we're like, oh, that looks like disgusting. And so we knew like we would never be planning trips like that. And so if you've never gone on a group trip before, it is different than traveling solo. And because you are with a group of people, we do almost every are designed a lot differently than others. Like, a lot of people like have like dinners are always open for you to go do on your own, or lunches are there's a lot of like things that you go do on your own. And even though we have some downtime in our trips, majority of the things we are doing together. Meals are together, activities are together, which is another reason why we get so close so fast. But we think that really the people are what add to these experiences. Again, Bali's freaking awesome. You're not going to go to Bali and have a bad time. Could you plan your own trip 100%? Like, hiking the Inca Trail, you're going to have an amazing time, but it's the people that are on these trips and the community that's built, the friendships, the family dynamic are truly what make these trips feel so memorable and lasting that people want to keep coming back and want to, because of the people and the group. And so now we're like, damn, like we love group trips because of the connections that you get to make. It makes them more special, I think.
And totally. And I think, you know, we've been harping a lot on who are the trips for, who are they not for. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is we are protective of the energy that comes into the group. We are traveling a smaller group. You are paying for a boutique experience. We are doing a lot. Our trips are not going to be the least expensive trip on the market. They're going to be in the upper upper areas of group trips. And that is because we keep our groups small for a reason. And when you keep them small for a reason, you got to be protective of the energy that comes in. And so we have put it out there. We talk about this all the time. Every single one of our trips that we have done so far, the right people have been there. We have literally talked and said, if you would have taken this person out of group 2 and put it in group 1, it wouldn't have worked. If you would have taken these 2 people out, and every group was built for each other. And it's been really cool to see. And that is just a natural thing that happens. And it's what we love the most about these trips. And so, but yes, we are going to be protective of the energy, and we want to attract the right people for the right group, for the right excursions, so that, we all have the best time possible, because we are traveling together a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Tracy, you said, what is the night thing? Is that Bali? ? What do you mean exactly? Like the nighttime clubbing, or like, what do you mean the night thing? And again, just kind of wrapping up that if you are interested in wanting to know, like getting all the details, right? Like I said, we're getting ready to launch Patagonia. We're just waiting for those dates to come through. And once that happens, we're going to send out to the interest list all of the details, the price, the itinerary, the dates, everything. So if you're interested in Patagonia, or a future Bali trip, or Peru, or Oaxaca, or New Zealand,
all of them,
make sure to join that interest list, because that truly is where we send all the information. It's just easy. Everybody on there is interested in the trips, and that is where we first send everything. You can go to our website on travsessed.com under the adventure tab, name, email, and then we send email. So that's how we communicate about the trips, is through an email. So make sure you join that. There was a night hike somewhere.
We hiked a volcano. We got up at 1 a.m, and we hiked throughout the night to reach the top of the volcano, or one of the volcanoes, so that we could watch the sunrise over the top.
Yeah.
In Bali, yes, that was one of them. I mean, there's times that we were hiking at night, and spiders are jumping on people's faces in Peru, because we took too long taking pictures and hanging out. It's like you got to be ready for any situation. I think as healthcare workers, and especially travelers, that's built in. We're just ready to adapt to whatever situation. And so when you can have one of the most scariest things for a lot of people, having a spider crawl on your face, and it becomes being one of the funniest situations around, where she was like blowing the spider off so that she didn't scream and scare everybody else, literally became one of the funniest stories we have had on all of our trips. So, there's just times, yes, we are hiking at night. We are, doing some off the beaten path things that,
Well, and I think too, like, we like talking about the trips and who they're for and stuff. I think, again, it's just that mentality of being flexible and adaptable. Like, we have itineraries. Sometimes things have to change because of weather, because of just what's happened. And so it's like, and I think most of us as travelers, like, that is a strength. And I think that's why we are great together traveling in a group, because most of us are very flexible, and we're like, yeah, we'll figure it out, whatever. And like, knowing that Aaron and I are the ones like going to figure out what we're going to do next, but you just having that adaptability and that flexibility just makes it for like a smooth trip for yourself. And just a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I do want to close this, unless you have something else to say.
No, let's close it out, because I got to pee.
I just wanted to close this by saying Travsessed Adventures has been blessed by some amazing travelers, and the fact that a lot of you want to go on these trips. With that being said, it's grown exponentially within the year, and Kim and I have realized that we are not able to do every single trip. So we have brought on a team that will be running trips in the future.
A couple.
Like a couple right now. But they'll be running trips, so it won't always be Kim and I. We're going to try to hit one trip, and if we have a back-to-back group, then they'll come in and take over the first or the second group, depending on our schedule. But that is an awesome problem to have, and we're excited to be expanding that. But just know it's not always going to be Kim and I from this point out.
The live video has ended.
No, we're still live.
That's so, I don't know. I think there's something weird going on. I don't know. Hopefully we're still on. I'm not really sure, but on my screen it says it's ended.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, so we'll always be planning, organizing all of the things and hosting, but we just know for us doing back to back is not sustainable long term. And so having some help with running some additional trips in the future too. So anyways, that's all for now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Make sure you join that interest list if you want to know future trips. And with that,
Happy Sunday.
And if you're in this Facebook group and you're not following us over on Instagram, we're at Kim and Aaron G. That's the best place to kind of DM us if you have questions. It's sucks because we're not I never get on Facebook unless I'm in this Facebook group. And so it's I never see hardly anything on Facebook anymore. And so anyways, that's the best place to DM us, ask questions, and make sure to join the interest list.
At hello@imtravsessed.com.
Yeah. And we will see you guys hopefully on a future trip.
Yes.
I wish we could have seen some of the comments. I know Paul was on here. Yeah.
Lori was on.
Lori, Michelle, Mitch. Hey,
Tracy.
Mitch. Tracy. So yeah. All right, guys, we will see you later.
All right. Bye. Okay, that wraps up the training. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's a little different for our types of podcasts. I don't think we've ever released a live as one of our podcasts, so it's kind of interesting.
No. But
no, it's not interesting? Or
no, I just mean we've never done that, and we actually thought about going and just recording it again, and we're no, why would we record the whole thing again? That was perfect, and like you said, the way that it just flowed and it just seemed to work, so we're well, let's just keep it and share it. So
yeah, there wasn't a lot of fluff.
There you go. You're welcome. Hopefully it answered your questions. If you ever have any questions specifically about our trips, always feel free to DM us at Kim and Aaron G. It's the best place to get a hold of us, and ask away.
Yeah, and I will say, if you have friends that you're talking to at your contracts or somewhere, and they're what's up with these adventure trips that you're talking about or going on, send them the podcast. I feel that's a great way to send them the podcast, to let them hear about it from the peeps themselves, and answering all the questions that a lot of people have. So it's a great way to just send your friends to that episode.
100%. All right, guys, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.